Welcome to the final episode of our series Rethink Corporate Spend. I'm still Jente Geerts, and today, once again, joined by my colleague Peter Lybeer from AirPlus International and Melvin van Wingerden from A4U. And today, we're focusing on the solution virtual cards. And while they're often seen as a convenience, when used strategically, they can transform how company manage spend, streamline processes, and even strengthen supplier relationship. So today, gentlemen, I want to separate the myth from reality. And Melvin, I think we should start with the basics. Virtual cars are often misunderstood by many companies. So, how would you explain what they really are and, more importantly, what they're not?
Okay. Well, first of all, I do understand why companies struggle with virtual cards because they believe it's a credit card. And technically speaking, it is a credit card. It gives all the benefits of a credit card. However, the fact that it's not actual plastic takes away a lot of takes away a lot of concerns for companies away, because what is a virtual card? Basically, it's a credit card that can be used only for one transaction, gives all the controls that a company needs in order to allow employees to make purchases, but still gives, let's say, the payment convenience to the employee. So again, I think for me, it's the easiest way of explaining, and you're the expert, I'm not sure.
If I may ask, that was actually what I was about to say. So a credit card is a piece of plastic that is in your wallet or on your phone, right? A virtual card is something you just pull behind your ear like a magician, right? It's not there,
Yeah.
right? So the point is, because it's not there, you can integrate it into processes, right? So it's about it again about the process where the virtual card is being used. And on top of that, I mean, the virtual credit cards is like a normal credit card. You get payment terms. I mean, you purchase something today, which then you will settle, 5 weeks later. But it's about the additional value you get from that transaction, from that virtual card, because that's the main difference between a corporate card and a virtual card. The moment you purchase, you do a transaction, you can have what we call a digital billing information. So it's an additional data field, which could be an employee number, could be cost center, could be project number, could be actually anything, or it could be all of that, which helps you reconcile against the goods you purchased.
Mm.
That's the beauty of a virtual card.
Yes, and to answer your question, what it is not, and I think that's where the misconception is within a lot of companies. It's not a free, let's say, spending card for employees and that they can just have it in their pockets with a limit and they can spend it wherever they want, and the company doesn't have any control over these expenses.
So, would you, let's say, because I can imagine um, employees having the need to have the corporate card, the plastic version of it. But I can at the same time also think that companies are not very keen to give it to every employee. That would be then a great.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. I mean, with a virtual card, you have the benefits of a corporate card, but you also have the flexibility to use these cards whenever somebody either doesn't have a card, or when a company has a policy that they don't want the employees to have cards. So it's very, or guests of a company. So it's very flexible. You can create one whenever you need one. And again, it takes away that let's say negative image that somebody has company money in their pocket and they can spend wherever they want.
And I remember, I think it was you, Melvin, who said that you can generate a virtual card for a one-time purchase. But I'm also interested to know, can they be created for recurring purchases as well?
Uh,
So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
If you want to go more into details, a virtual card can be also a multi-use virtual card, which is then you link it to certain supplier,
Mhm.
and then you can have a recurring payment behind it. But first, mandatory, a user needs to approve the first expense and actually that specific vendor to be linked to that virtual card. To give an example, Jente, maybe you were getting to that. Social media, right?
Yeah.
That's where you have the Google AdWords, Facebook campaigns. They can be ran on a virtual card multi-use. Again, one card, one vendor, and then you can have multiple transactions on that after approval.
And coming back to something that you've said well, both our first episode and our second episode, it's not necessarily always the payment that creates friction, but it's everything around it. So when I'm quickly looking at my screen because I really want to ask this question correctly, how do virtual cards help reduce that friction into practice? Can you give a concrete example or maybe even a business case?
Yeah. It all depends where you want to start, right? I mean, if we take one step back at AirPlus, we're specialized in virtual cards for travel. So you go into a hotel, you have that virtual card being processed in your travel agency. That's the job done. The moment you get into the topic of today, Jente, which is the long tail spend, unmanaged spend, the beauty of it, of a virtual card, it's only the form of payment. It's integrated, and then you can call it your procure to pay process wherever you want it to be made available. So the approval process is done within your current procure to pay process, and the payment, the virtual card, is being processed with additional data fields. And then at the end of the day, you have an end-to-end process where you have from the beginning the virtual card linked to the approval process, and at the end you have the invoice linked to the
I would even take this one level higher. I mean, if you need to buy something on behalf of your company, you first need somehow an approval or authorization to make that purchase. One. Secondly, if you receive an invoice, that invoice will need to be processed into an accounting system. And in order to be processed into an accounting system, you need company-specific references because you need to understand for what cost center is it, what kind of purchase is it, does it belong to a certain project, yes or no. Then once processed, you need to pay it, right? And you need to make sure that that payment and also, let's say, the due date of the invoice allows you to have that invoice validation, processing, and approval. I think that's where virtual card taps in perfectly because it gives the information around, let's say, a purchase that an accounting department needs in order to process it. It gives a delayed payment term, so also the time in order to get that paid. But in addition, because let's take the single-use virtual card as an example, you also make sure that it's controlled and compliant because once the purchase has been made, that virtual card number doesn't exist any longer. So it cannot be used again or misuse or abused again.
So we could say that one of the big promises of a virtual card is actually getting that better overview and keeping control of the specs.
Yeah, I would say, but I'm also talking, let's say, of course, with my knowledge about the pay-for-you, a B2B payment platform. For me personally, yes, a virtual card is a very, very important tool to support that process, but I don't think the virtual card can do it in isolation. It's, as Peter rightly mentioned, it's that whole end-to-end process. And that's why I do believe that the combination of a virtual card combined with a platform, a B2B payment platform like Pay4You, is the perfect solution for companies.
We have to put ourselves in the shoes of a corporate purchase guy, right? Or more lady. What is it that you want to achieve at some point, right? Do you want to manage long tail spend? Do you want to get early paid discounts, something maybe Jente you haven't heard about? Do you want to extend your payment terms? You know what? The three of them can be achieved with the virtual card. I know it sounds a little bit too cheesy, but it's a fact, right?
And we are devoking the myth from the reality, right?
Yeah, we see, virtual cards we all agree now it's a safe and a compliant form of payment, but it's what you can achieve with it, right? If you want to manage long tail spend, you integrate it into, well, partners that help you simplify your long tail spend. If you want to get, you mentioned at the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, Jente, you mentioned strengthen the relationship with your suppliers. Suppliers will like it if you pay them early, right? And you can do that with a virtual card. It's not that common, right? But it happens. They get the payment earlier done, which creates added value.
But talking about the suppliers it also makes me think like we make it sound as implementing and using virtual cards is a no-brainer, but looking at it from the supplier side, can we say that every supplier accepts virtual cards as a payment method?
Um, in a B2B environment, certainly not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think credit card acceptance on, let's say, more consumerized products and services, yes. In a B2B environment, I think that that market is definitely increasing. So, no, to answer your question, no, there is not 100% acceptance. But at the end of the day, vendors want to be paid as quickly as possible. But going back to that combination, that procure to pay, I think at the end of the day, what you want is, so as an employee, you have to spend money. It's inevitable. You have to buy your flowers or you have to go to a conference. And what you want is you want to pay hassle-free, or as we say, hassle-free also means in consumerized way. But then if you look at finance, finance wants to have the most efficient process as possible. And if you look at the interest or the perspective of procurement, they want to be in control. They want to understand what is going on, and they want to make sure that they that purchase is compliant, but also done at the right vendor. And I think that's where the beauty of a virtual card solution in combination with a platform is that you can balance out all those different interests and make it one solution that creates a lot of value for the whole company, and not only for finance or not only for procurement.
So can I understand it in a way? Let's take it back. So what if a company is on board with virtual cards, but their supplier isn't? Is there a middle ground, a middle way, loophole?
Yeah, I don't want to be too dominant in this conversation, but that's definitely my turf. So we, as Pay for You, a B2B payment platform, um, we act as a master merchant. So basically what it means is that if you have chosen your virtual card as a preferred form of payment for tail end spend, then of course the next question is, can I use my virtual card everywhere? Well, the answer is obviously no. There's still a gap in acceptance. And that's where we as PayView come around, because wherever there is no credit card acceptance, we act as a master merchant. And the outcome for our customers is that they can use their virtual cards for all the products and services that they purchase.
And Peter, from your perspective, I guess is that something that companies are appreciating?
I hope so, and I can guarantee they don't know that, right? So they will think, and that's why you asked the question: Hey, what if there is no Mastercard acceptance? Can I then still manage it? Well, the answer is yes. Melvin already just told you that. I mean, it's called merchant of record. In the end, nobody cares, right? Can I use my virtual card to pay a non-Mastercard merchant? The answer is yes. You need, of course, to partner up with, well, companies like PayFear.
Okay. Now it's good to know. I'm learning a lot from having this conversation with the both of you. So, Peter, staying with you, because it's something that you've mentioned at the very beginning of this episode. We know from experience, you and I, that companies are using virtual cards when it comes to their T&E expenses. From everything that we've discussed so far in this episode, we basically have the same business case when it comes to long tail spend.
Yes, and now I would say on the usage, it helps, of course, that companies are familiar with virtual credit cards in their T&E process. So that's the experience is there. I don't know if we can say that long tail spend is that familiar within companies, right? So in my honest opinion, Melvin, a lot of companies just struggle with long tail spend. They keep on creating vendors at a high cost. They keep on processing invoices at a high cost. They keep on frustrating all the employees. I don't know at what cost that is, but there must be some cost involved. That's the real essence here, right? You can manage that. It's not the end of the current P2P process. You can see your virtual card as an asset. I don't want to repeat myself, but create additional time to manage your process with the principles of a credit card. You can create value with your supplier by paying them earlier. Hence, the potential early pay discounts you can achieve, something I believe companies really underestimate that they can do. And all of that being managed in a very simple process.
But I would maybe add to that, it's a very latent need with companies. And that's because there were no solutions in the past. They have accepted the pain that comes along with managing long tail spend, and they found solutions around it. I also believe that companies need to have a certain maturity when it comes to automation and when it comes to their development, and they need to be more efficient before they look into that long tail spend. Well, I would argue it. I would turn it around. I would say, okay, there are very quick to implement solutions that deliver directly value. So, make sure that you control that. So that you, as I said, it's 20% of procurement volume that creates 80% of the administrative burden. Take that away so you can truly focus on what is truly important of the business for the business.
So we can definitely state that companies definitely no longer need to endure the pain of long tail spend.
Those are your words. I can only second it, but they're, it would be too sales made.
So thank you for sharing. And I want to close the series with a fun question to the both of you. From each of you, I would like to hear one myth that you would, because we're staying in the theme right here, one myth that you would like to debunk on both virtual cards and long tail spend.
Yeah, that's a good question, Jente. Let me think about it. Maybe to make it really simple, companies that tell us I don't have a long tail issue, I don't believe them.
That's true. And I also think the myth that we have a policy that doesn't allow credit cards, so credit card is a no-go, I think that's definitely a myth because there are a lot of solutions that can address that.
Okay. And maybe one more action. Let's say companies are convinced after hearing on a podcast series on the big picture, long tail spend and virtual cards, and they want to take action. One action that they can take.
The easiest one I would say, call us. Well, you have to make a choice between Narwhal and myself. No, I'm more seriously. I mean, talk to your internal organization, find out if there is a problem, where it is, and then make the first analysis. And we're more than happy to help you through. We can create a business case. We can show best practices from other companies. I think the first step is acknowledgement.
And I think acknowledgement, but also take it from zoom out of the situation and take a holistic look on how you manage a long tail spend, and not only from a finance perspective or from a procurement perspective, but take a 360 on the topic.
So that brings us to the end of our three-part series. I want to say a huge thank you to Peter and Melvin for sharing their knowledge. I think we can definitely state that I had two experts with me to talk about long tail spend, virtual cards, and give their expert opinion on the fast evolving world of corporate payments. We hope that you found value in this series. If you're keen on sharing it, definitely do so. And yeah, let us know what other topics you'd like us to explore in the future. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.